Hi, my name is Sean Donnelly. I am a learning and development manager at the largest professional services firm in the world, and I'm also an educator in the field of entrepreneurship. Being entrepreneurial is a theme that runs through my life. Years ago, I set up a youth club in inner city Dublin. I started my career in banking where I supported entrepreneurs, and then I worked in industry engagement at Dublin City University where I supported hundreds of entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs with training and with consulting. And I've taught entrepreneurship programs at postgraduate level. And today I'd like to talk to you about how I would like to transform my approach to entrepreneurship education. In teaching entrepreneurship to teachers and to social entrepreneurs at third level, I have observed resistance to the word entrepreneurship and the topic of entrepreneurship. This resistance is rooted in a preconception that the goal of the entrepreneur is to generate wealth for themselves as opposed to doing good for society. And it's a big barrier that I think needs to be addressed if we want to transform entrepreneurship education. And so let's look at a model that I've been thinking about to teach entrepreneurship, both within this module and that you might think about when you're teaching your own students. So, as we start on the left with the learners, the components of entrepreneurship education include a focus on knowledge in terms of things like what entrepreneurship is. There are entrepreneurial skills, which are derived from practice and active participation through things like projects and hackathons and so on. And then there's mindset, which we will come back to. The concept of mindset, it's increasingly appearing actually in the entrepreneurship education literature. When I refer to mindset, I'd also like you to think about your attitude towards entrepreneurship and your educational values, because our attitude towards entrepreneurship is important. And so a big part of this is spending time understanding how being entrepreneurial creates value in our classroom, in our communities, for society, for the environment. It's not just about creating value for the entrepreneur. And I think that's the mindset piece that we really want to hone in on. Because if we can do that, then we have a better chance of aligning our own values with our educational values. Then, as we move left to right, we can look at our framework to discuss what entrepreneurship is. So let's do that. Um, Developing an entrepreneurial mindset, if we start with that, encourages curious and creative people who are passionate about finding opportunities and being brave enough to act on them. And I think that sort of view of entrepreneurship aligns with what Yvonne Crotty calls an educational entrepreneurial spirit, where she tries to create a learning environment where learners are actively engaged in carrying out entrepreneurial projects in their own work context and bringing new ideas and innovations into the workplace. So that's what we mean when we talk about an entrepreneurial mindset. Um, but if we want to define entrepreneurship, I think it's a dynamic concept. But if we boil it right down, I view entrepreneurship as looking at the world the way it is and then visualizing how we think it should be. That's all it is. It's looking at that gap between the world as it is, the world as it should be, and then stepping into that gap, so to speak. Um, and so entrepreneurs are open to the world around them. They're curious about the world, and they're always looking for ways to try and improve things. And when I say the world, actually, that's not necessarily meaning, change the whole big world. It might simply be the world inside your classroom or your professional practice, your community, or maybe even maybe you do have big ideas to change the world. And then entrepreneurs, they don't just look at what's wrong with the world, because we can all do that, I guess. They also see themselves as agents of change. Um, and something that I've been trying to do is draw lines between entrepreneurship and education. And you'll observe here that entrepreneurship is, sometimes we use the word customer, so customer oriented, but it might also be beneficiary oriented, because a beneficiary isn't necessarily paying for something, but the entrepreneur is still creating value for somebody. So let's call that the beneficiary. Whereas education is learner oriented. So both are characterized by innovation Entrepreneurs create value by offering solutions and opportunities for humans to solve their problems and move forward in life. And educators create value by providing guidance and equipping learners with the skills and knowledge to help people solve their problems and move forward in life. So you can kind of start to see some lines between the two disciplines there, and they both rely on a highly developed set of communication skills and empathy and understanding those beneficiaries or customers. And so let's combine our definition of entrepreneurship um, with a look at who can be an entrepreneur. So I have a nice definition here, which is that an entrepreneur is somebody who perceives an opportunity and creates an organization to pursue it. Now, an organization is simply just a group of people working towards a common goal. So an organization could just be a team of people. It's not necessarily setting up a business. Um, and by seeing an opportunity and then creating an organization to create value to address that opportunity. In that sense, entrepreneurship can rely on service and empathy. It involves very little in the way of hustling or coercion or chasing wealth. It's in fact, it's a chance to serve or to create value for people. And good entrepreneurs, they don't use customers to solve their organization's problem. They use their own entrepreneurial thinking to solve other people's problems. And then likewise, good educators, we don't use learners as an audience to lecture to. They good educators use their knowledge of education to lift people up. And that's kind of what it's about. Again, it's sort of delivering value for people. And I think a nice example of entrepreneurship in the education space actually is Khan Academy. It's a nonprofit organization. It was created with the aim of providing free, high quality education to anybody, anywhere in the world. And that started with the founder creating educational videos in 2004 to help his cousins with their math homework. So, in terms of seeing that gap or that opportunity, that's all he was doing. He was helping his cousins with their homework. But he soon realized that these videos could benefit a much larger audience. And so he started uploading them to YouTube in 2006. And as the popularity of his videos grew, he founded Khan Academy then in 2008 with the mission of providing free education to anybody with an internet connection. And now there's a whole range of subjects there. I think as of February, they had about 7.5 million subscribers. And then, as well as instructional videos, they now also have tools for educators to use. And we can keep on drawing that line actually between education and entrepreneurship. And there's been tons of innovation in terms of the delivery of education. So MOOC platforms, MOOC standing for Massive Online Open Course. Those platforms help institutions expand their impact and provide courses to people around the world, in many cases for free. We've got platforms like blogs and YouTube and Udemy, which are very handy for sort of just-in-time learning. As in, how can I record a learning video? You'll probably find the answer to that on YouTube. And actually, in terms of educational entrepreneurship and tools and technologies that are available for that, I'm recording this video using Canva, which is a great innovation. For anybody who has ever taken it upon themselves to fix or improve something in your professional practice, you will appreciate that this behavior is entrepreneurial. And actually, it's fundamental to the human spirit, I think. When people are being entrepreneurial, they see how something can be better, and they act. And the implication is that entrepreneurship isn't just something that gets applied in business. It has value for society. And that's why entrepreneurship education is important. And so let's think about um, how entrepreneurship education can help people or potential entrepreneurs. And so, when we think of entrepreneurship, quite often we think of business. So that might bring to mind famous entrepreneurs whose behavior perhaps might conflict with educator values, but we can educate people to help them start businesses. Um, but we can also be entrepreneurial in our practice inside our organization. We can try new teaching approaches. You might start an after school club. You can develop a solution for making textbooks available as a service rather than families having to purchase them. Equally, in commercial enterprise, you might have an idea for a new product or a new way of doing things. And we call that behavior entrepreneurship. So it's still very much entrepreneurial behavior, but it's not necessarily the same as starting a business. Another big area in entrepreneurship these days is social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurs are people who apply entrepreneurial thinking to tackle problems in their community or in society. People like Sinead Ryan, who has set up Little Fitness in Northwest Dublin. She teaches fitness and games to children who live in emergency accommodation. And so her goal was to make an impact in the lives of disadvantaged children, not to make a profit. And these are all outward manifestations of entrepreneurship, but there's another area that is about personal empowerment. We can look at ourselves in an entrepreneurial way and ask, how can I be better in my practice and in my life? And this concept is presented beautifully, I think, by Dr. Yvonne Crotty in her PhD, where she discusses what she calls an educational entrepreneurial spirit. And this involves aligning educational values with qualities like passion, safety, creativity, and excellence and care, essentially weaving the entrepreneurial spirit into our own character. And that brings me to asking very personal questions then, such as how can I, Sean Donnelly, be a better man? How can I be a better son? How can I be a better husband, better friend, a better student, better educator? Again, it's all about bringing that way of entrepreneurial thinking, or as Yvonne calls it, the educational entrepreneurial spirit into our lives. There are other reasons why entrepreneurship education is important, and I've attempted to align what the research says with the four domains of entrepreneurship that I've just outlined, actually. So, by equipping people with skills, we can increase the levels of entrepreneurship, both in business and social enterprise and practice. By equipping people with the skills to address challenges in their classrooms, communities, and society. We can do that as well. Um, the research indicates that we can increase the potential for somebody's career success, whether they choose to be entrepreneurs or employees, and be intrapreneurial. Um, we can develop entrepreneurial skills and knowledge, and by extension develop entrepreneurial behavior and performance, and that helps us connect with other subjects. And that's something to remember, is that entrepreneurship is not a domain that exists in its own right. It's something that spans across lots of different areas: science, engineering, technology, society, community, politics, and so on. um, and I think, yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Like, so there's one of the podcasts that is available to you is with Luke Saunders, who's the CEO of a company called StudyClicks. And he talked about being at the Young Scientists Fair last year, and how so many of the solutions that were developed by the students, so they're backed by science, but to carry those solutions forward requires some amount of entrepreneurial thinking. And so I think that's a nice way of contextualizing how entrepreneurial thinking expands into other domains. And then more broadly, teaching people about entrepreneurship can increase those entrepreneurial intentions, increase the likelihood of self-employment if we want to do that, or and then of course by extension job creation. And then it helps us develop our strategic and planning skills. So what does the literature say about entrepreneurship education? So here's a definition of entrepreneurship education from Steve Gedian. He says that entrepreneurship education encompasses holistic personal growth and transformation that provides students with knowledge, skills, and attitudinal learning outcomes. I'll read that again. Um, Entrepreneurship education encompasses holistic personal growth and transformation that provides students with knowledge, skills, and attitudinal learning outcomes. Those attitudinal learning outcomes, I think we can draw that line with mindset again. And this empowers students with a philosophy of entrepreneurial thinking, passion again being a word used by Yvonne Crotty, and action orientation that they can apply to their lives, to their employers, to their communities, and to their own ventures. So, as you can see, it's far broader than just starting a business. Um, and there are other reasons. Forgive me if I'm flogging a dead horse here, but we live in a world characterized by globalization and deregulated markets. And in order to survive and thrive and flourish in that kind of world, we need to help our students develop their higher order thinking skills. And so learning entrepreneurship encourages creativity and innovation. When students learn about entrepreneurship, they learn how to identify problems and develop innovative solutions to address those problems. And that mindset of problem solving and creative thinking is valuable in all areas of life, not just in business. Entrepreneurship education helps students become more self reliant and self sufficient. It teaches them how to take initiative and creates opportunities for themselves rather than relying on others. And overall, entrepreneurship education is important because it helps students develop valuable skills like active learning and tolerance for ambiguity that are essential for success in the 21st century. It can help students develop important life skills like I think transversal skills is the common parlance these days. So those skills include things like communication, leadership, and collaboration. They're essential in the workplace, of course, but they're also essential to help us navigate everyday life. And then entrepreneurship education, of course, can promote economic development. It's a key driver of economic growth and job creation. And then finally, by teaching students about entrepreneurship, we can help create a culture of innovation in our classroom, in our institution, in our community, and so on. So we can create that culture of innovation and a culture of change makers, which can lead to a more vibrant economy and society. So you might reasonably ask, how do we teach entrepreneurship? And that really is the educator's big challenge, and we will address that in the next video.